understand that. That's great. Super. Wonder. She's usually sitting there. So she's gone for a baptism.
Who's that now?
Her grandson, Elaine Cruz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's going to be with them as he's baptized. So we need to be thankful for that. James, chapter 2. We started last week with verse 14. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? And of course, we came to the conclusion that it can't. If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? So, what are we testing here when we say that? Well, just go ahead, you'll be okay. Everything's going to work out, and you don't help. What's that? Yeah. You know, I think those kind of words are well-intentioned. And I think that a lot of times, and I've said this a few times myself, when you offer your assistance to someone, you truly mean it. But they won't accept your efforts. And I have said, please let me do what I'm supposed to do. Have you ever had that happen where you really wanted to go do something for somebody and they said, no, we can do it ourselves? And you know their efforts they can't really do for themselves. It's a sad thing when we won't let our brothers help us. But in this case, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about exactly what Sybil said. You know, we say, okay, if we can help you, just let us know. Instead of grabbing them by the hand and let's go get it done. But that's not a exhibit of our faith when we tell somebody to do that, is it? What's lacking when we tell them to do that? And it's our works. It requires an effort on our part to go and help the person. Is it always convenient when somebody asks you for help? Yeah, you ever been called in the middle of the night? Yes, Jerry.
Now, they've got government police on.
Well, that's true.
But in my younger years, nobody wanted to help anybody. And now everybody's trying to jump on the crazy train. That's what folks do.
Well, I don't know that we can say everybody is, but there's a lot of, yeah. There's quite a few, and that's a shame that we've come to that kind of a situation. But that doesn't keep us from having the duty to help as we can. That's, yeah, if we need it. Yes, sir.
What do you do when somebody comes to your door? This happened to me last week. A man and his wife said, "We're hungry. Could you give us some money for food?" And take them for lunch.
Give them food instead of money.
Take them to lunch. Or whether they're professional majors.
Yeah, well, that's true. And you know, are we going to be faulted for trying to help someone that says they're in need? Who's in trouble there? If they are misrepresenting themselves and we try to do what they ask us to do, then the burden is on their part. They've lied to us.
Charles?
Yes, sir.
While I was preaching here, we had an agreement with Bibbles up here.
Okay.
If anybody come up there and said they were consensual and what they wanted a meal to feed them. So when people came by and they said they were hungry, we said, go up to Bibbles, they'll feed you, they'll give you anything you want to eat. We'll pay for
Yeah.
it. They'll be paid for. You know how many went up there in 15 years I was there?
None. And that's a shame, isn't it? That's a shame. We realize that that's a part of today's society, it seems like, and people get themselves in trouble big time with various sins, I'll call them, drugs and alcohol and all manners of sin that they get involved in. And they haven't come to the point of realization that they can get out of it if they determine to get out of it. And so many times they don't get low enough. You've got to get so low that you can't go any further down. And then you might be too far. You might not be able physically to overcome those kind of things. Yes, Carol?
I look at it this way, and I could possibly be wrong. If we continue to give money, we are enabling. But if we give food, we should be helping.
I agree. If somebody says, I need money for food, then the deal is don't give them money, give them the food. And I know Andy's aunt, Aunt Jo, she was a character, and she had a heart as big as the car she drove in, and it was a big old Cadillac most of the time. And I don't know if she just did it on purpose. It seemed like she just drove around town to find somebody on a corner that had a sign that I'm hungry, I need food, you know. Well, she'd stop and go to the hamburger joint and bring them back some food, and she'd give it to them. And a lot of times they would just take it and throw it on the ground. That happened. And so, you know, but you haven't wasted a lot of money.
I would rather waste it with them.
Exactly.
Hamburger away than
Exactly.
find those around.
Yeah, now what's more important, giving them food or giving them physical food or spiritual food? And what we're supposed to try to do when we have somebody that professes that they need help, we should try to use the influence that we have, not only giving them food, physical food, but spiritual food. And that's an opportunity for us to try to teach them the gospel. And sometimes that works. Yes, sir.
You're a little bit afraid to invite them into your home, especially if you're there alone. And what I did was just what I was able to do. Just give them what I was able to.
Yeah. Well, you just don't know when you open the door what's going to happen. We hear bad things all the time about people coming to a door and then just rushing on in and the person winds up dead. I mean, in that situation, what do you do? What should you do?
Charles?
Yes, sir.
There's a stipulation that says if anybody that is in need will come to you.
Yes.
Now, these panhandlers are not necessarily in need, so we're not going to be responsible or condemned or look negatively by God for not helping. We're cheap.
We have a responsibility to be honest to the church, do we not? To try to do what's right. After all, it's God's money. Now we're talking, it gets down to money, okay? It gets down to resources. And we have to try our best to keep from getting taken. After all, if we give to someone who's should not have the funds, we might be depriving someone who really needs it. So it's a fine line that we have to run. The deal is, we're talking about works here, okay? And the deal is, we are supposed to be doing good works because we can't be saved through our faith only. We have to do. Yes, sir.
I think you gave the right answer to that. Once you do give, the responsibility has been taken care of on your part, and then it shifts over to the other person.
I know my father-in-law, I use him a lot. He up in Virginia, he was there all the time, and he got phone calls. I've got an emergency in Maryland and I need a bus ticket. And so he would go down to the bus station and buy him a ticket. And he had this one lady that called him 2 or 3 times. She forgot who she called. And he'd go down there and she finally she said, "Oh my goodness, you again." So, yes.
I was at the Smyrna church office one day. A man came by walking on crutches, walking money for medicine. Hazel Roberts happened to be there. She picked up the phone and made a phone call and found out that he was in the system and all of his medicine was paid for. He was walking money for
Yeah,
somebody else.
she picked on the wrong one because she had the contact. She could find out.
She found that out.
Yeah, because she keeps she has a nursing facility, I think, doesn't she?
Mentally handicapped.
Yeah, yeah.
She built him a house.
Well, she built him a house.
Built a house for the.
Oh yeah, yeah,
challenge.
yeah. She runs a couple of facilities.
Yeah.
So Hazel Roberts.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
She's a good lady. All right, let's go on. Thus also, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. So we can't have one without the other and be righteous. But someone will say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my work." That's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? If you have faith and you have true faith, what will you do? You will work. If you do not have faith, are you likely to work?
Not very likely, unless you believe that you works will save you.
Yeah, but it's almost like that chicken and the egg. Okay, you can't separate the two. If you have faith, you're going to do what you're supposed to do. And if you're out there working and you're working for the Lord, you have to have faith before your works are going to manifest themselves. It's impossible to separate the two.
Sometimes there's a difference in being busy and working. A lot of people busy themselves with tending to facilities. Very busy tending facilities, and we do for each other, but our works are not just what we do for our brothers and sisters, it's what we do outside this congregation of faithful people.
Yeah, it doesn't stop at the door.
We may get
Yeah.
very, very busy, but we may not be doing works.
While you said that, I was thinking this time of the year, we see a lot of people that aren't church people, if you will, true believers, that are in the process of helping people who don't have a, quote, Christmas. We see canathons, we see toys for tots, we see all manner of things that go to people who are in need. And those are works. Are they hollow works? Are the people who are benefiting from their works benefiting? And the answer is yes, they are. So where is the faith in that situation? Where does their faith come from? And does it stop December the 25th? It's a temporary kind of a thing, is it not? If we're faithful to God, our faith doesn't just happen a couple of weeks out of the year, does it? It doesn't take a holiday. Theirs works on the holiday and takes a holiday the rest of the year in most cases. So if we're faithful, we're not going to take a holiday. We're not going to just work one part of the year or a few days out of the year. It's going to be every day. We're going to exhibit our faith. Yes, sir.
The world is communicated that the Christmas time and Easter time, those are special.
Exactly.
Now, they may have faith in not so much in this, but your faith is in what they hear in the media of the world. It's not what they read in the Bible.
Yeah, it's not true faith. It might be faith, it might be an express faith, but it's not true faith. And if it were, the emphasis would not be put on just that one time of the year. We would see exhibited all along. Now I see, and I'm not going to name names, but I see people who get involved in projects and like Habitat for Humanity. And they get a lot of people involved in that. Is that an expression of their faith, or is it just works? Now, what did we just read? If you have works and you don't have faith, you're not going to be saved. So what is their faith in? They've got works. I mean, the works, you can see the works, and it's benefiting humanity. But what about their faith? Okay, so it's not true faith, is it? It's faith in something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's not faith. Maybe they don't even consider it to be faith. We're just doing some good works. Yes, Jerry?
There's one scripture that all of us are familiar with. Whatever you do in word or deed, do in the name of the Lord.
Exactly.
Who gets the credit for it?
Yes, yes. And of course, you know, when you look at some of the people that are out there, they're personalities. A lot of them are personalities. Everybody recognizes them, and they're held up for what they do. And the person that doesn't do that stuff, that's out there in the front, that does it on just because they have faith, they want to help somebody. That's the kind of faith and works we should have, isn't it? We shouldn't be doing it for our glory. Yeah.
One of the ways that's near my heart is when Jesus established the Lord's Supper, that do this in remembrance of me. So if you have faith, you're going to partake in the Lord's Supper and remember what the Lord did for me or you or whoever.
I don't know if any of you have ever been to a Lord's Supper ceremony in a denominational setting. And it's, did you? I hadn't been to a foot washing. Now you're really dating yourself there, foot wash. I don't think they might still do some of those. They have some snake handlers in the group when they did, okay. They really, but it was a ceremony, and it was more for the people, I think, that were doing the ceremony, because they had divided it up where they had one doing this and one doing this, and it took a while because they only did them like once every quarter. So it was a big deal, and people who normally wouldn't attend would be there for that quarterly ceremony, and so it was a big thing. It wasn't designed, I didn't think, to do what the purpose was, to remember Christ. It was more of a remembrance. It's our quarter to have the Lord's Supper instead of actually observing the Lord's Supper. And in one instance that I went, my mom was there, and I'm going, I don't want to do this. I do not. So I didn't participate in anything. But the preacher comes out with a loaf of bread, just a regular loaf of bread. And he was taking pieces off, and when they were partaking of the bread, he was placing the bread in their mouth, you know. But it was a regular leavened bread. And I'm going, I hope the Lord doesn't come. I am in the wrong place. I made everybody mad because I just sat there with my head bowed. I could not. Anyway, that was a long time ago. But I always think about it, you know, that I actually was there, and I shouldn't have been there.
I have an aunt that I really appreciated, that she was good for faith. When she died, just really going to and a priest or
Oh, yeah.
and there's no basis for it.
No, they do it at weddings. They do it at weddings as well. And so it's not, I mean, what happened on the first day of the week, you know, it's really weird. And they do it for themselves, I think, more than remembering Christ and his death and his burial.
The religious world has made less and less of the Lord's Supper.
Yes.
At the beginning, of course, on the first day of the week. But then it got down to a quarter. And now, in most churches, once a year on Easter.
Yeah, they do that. And then sometimes they change up the days. They do it all kinds of different things. We said weddings and funerals and whatever. Let's continue on with our study. You believe that there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. But do you want to know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? So he said it a couple of ways, hadn't he? You can't have works without faith. And you can't have true faith without works. And then he says, O foolish man, faith without works is dead. So you can say, I have faith. But if you don't do anything, it's in vain. Yes, sir. I think that's rhetorical. Okay? Do you want to know? I've already told you that faith without works is not going to save you. And then he says, oh, do you want to know? Like, I'm going to tell you again. Oh, foolish man, that faith without works is dead. It's like, after what I've just told you, why would you ask me that question?
He's asking.
Huh?
The writer is asking a
Right. Okay, but it's still a question, and we don't know if there were some in the audience that brought up a question. We just know this is what James wrote down. Now, do we have a dialogue in the scriptures? In most cases, we don't have a running dialogue of what people say, do we? I don't know if that's the case, but it sounds rhetorical to me that, you know, look, I've already told you what's going to happen. You can't have one without the other. You can't have true faith or true works without true faith. You can't do it. But we know the last part of that verse is pretty emphatic, isn't it? Is there any doubt? There's no doubt, is there? And what does he say? Foolish man. Foolish man. Can't you understand what I told you? Are you foolish? Yeah. Like, nobody's that crazy. You just heard, it's pretty simple. The language was pretty simple, wasn't it? Previous verses. How come you can't understand that? Verse 21. Was not Abraham, our father, justified by works when he offered Isaac, his son, on the altar? What did Abraham have? He had explicit faith, didn't he? I mean, he took his only son. Well, it wasn't his only son, but it was his son with his wife. And he intended to sacrifice him on the altar. He had the knife, didn't he, raised? He was getting ready to kill him. It was undying faith, because that was what had been promised, and he's getting ready to kill him because God told him that he was to be sacrificed. So you cannot, there's no way you could question Abraham's faith. And the works that it took to kill him, to sacrifice him, you can't question that either. Was there a little preparation involved in getting to the point where he was going to sacrifice him? He had to bring wood, had to travel a distance. I mean, so everything showed Abraham's faith in God. Now, his faith was in God, was it not? You're going to take care of me. If I kill him, you're going to give me another one. He's going to be replaced because you promised that this was going to happen. Do you see the faith? That faith was working together with his works, and by works, faith was made perfect. Now, these people all knew about Abraham, didn't they? That's been removed now, quite a number of years. But they all knew it. They knew the story. And through his works, his faith was made perfect. Now, does that apply to us? If we go out and work, does it perfect our faith? That's what it says here. That's what happened to Abraham. It perfected. It gave him stronger faith because he did what God wanted him to do. So they feed off each other, don't they? If you have stronger faith, you're going to have more works. If you do more works, you're going to have stronger faith. That's a pretty neat system, isn't it? Yes.
That story is a little bit hard to swallow until you realize that happened at a time when God was talking directly to Abraham. And,
yeah, it was.
He had said before that, "Thou shalt not kill." And now he's ordering
his son.
him.
Yeah, kill his son.
That's where you have to be a Bible study to appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a amazing story of what happened and how long it took for Isaac to be there. And of course, they trusted in God to bring him the son, and he did. And it took how long? Well, yeah, we don't. It wasn't 90 years that they were married, but it was a long time before Isaac was given to them. And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. Now, it would be glorious for us to be called a friend of God, right? How do we become a true friend of God? Through our faith and our works. Abraham was the example. And that's what happened to him. And if we do the same thing, we're going to be friends of God. We're also children. That we're going to be tested. Well, if you don't have the works, that's one way that it's going to be manifested, and we're going to be tried. There's no doubt about being tried. I think everyone is tried. Our faith is going to be attacked. That's works. If
the only thing that we can do is let them see. And that's not just that old saying. You may read in the old Bible, some people read.
Well, that's true.
Some people hear. So,
While you were saying that, I was thinking about Richard and Linda who are in the audience today, and think about their family situation. They've had not only Linda, but two granddaughters that have had some serious issues. You think their faith was tried a little? Now they can tell you for sure, but the odds are it has been. It has been. If we were in the same position, we can answer that question. If we had that happen to us, what would our faith be? What would our faith be? Can you say that your service to God would continue without interruption? We saw a situation in Warner Robins where there was a family and they had 3 children. I think it was 2 or 3 anyway. I think it was 3. And they were involved in everything. They worked. And one of their children had a seizure and passed away. And they left the church. They left the church. And the reason was, a just God wouldn't have taken my son. Their faith was tempted. And the devil won. That happens a lot. It happens more than it should in God's people. But it does happen. So we have to be diligent. We have control of ourselves. And we're the ones that are going to have to answer. Husbands and wives can answer for each other. Now they can help each other, but they don't answer for each other. And that's a blessing. That's a blessing that we don't have to answer for someone else. And sometimes it's a pretty bad situation, and we can only help. How do we help? Well, there's situations where husbands and wives may not be members of the church. One spouse is not a member. And we see where, through the faith and the works of one spouse, as an example, the other one is converted. That happens many, many times. We were talking about someone today. Andy was telling a story about someone who, their spouse, the woman in a relationship, the family, was faithful for years and years and years. The husband was not faithful. But, that word, talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but He did not inhibit her from going, from doing good works. He helped her. He went to all of the services. He encouraged her. They had just gotten through reading the Bible through twice. He was ready to be baptized, and he passed away. So she heard that yesterday at the ladies' meeting. So you think about those situations. Thank goodness she was able to do the right thing, and her soul is going to be saved. And she tried to teach him, and he was almost there. Years and years and years that they had been together, and it didn't happen. So that just shows us we have to keep our own faith, and we have to try to help everyone else around us to have strong faith as well. If they see us doing, there's a situation in Benton, Virginia, where a good friend of ours eventually converted. We knew George for 10 years, and he would come, and then he started coming more often, and people studied with him, and eventually he became a New Testament Christian. And he came out of the Catholic faith, which is kind of difficult. Here's a man that's 40 some years old, and he finally realized, and he would try us. We would do things together on a recreational basis, and he would say things like, "You mind if I get some beer take some beer on our trip this Saturday?" No, George, no beer's going in my boat, And so, but he kept trying, and then all of a sudden, he's participating with her doing things because of her faith and her works. He was influenced, and he was eventually baptized. He started doing some preaching. He taught Sunday school, and he was leading singing. So it took a long time, but that was an exhibit that he saw in his home every day. It wasn't just on Sundays and Wednesdays. It was every day. And she had the influence, and the people around him that came in contact with him had the same kind of an influence. It took a long time, but it eventually happened, and they're still faithful. They live in Nashville, Tennessee, and the girls are faithful. I mean, it's a good situation. But they were divided for a long time, and until he was baptized. We're going to stop right there. Yes, sir. You have a question?
You have to remember that God expects us to use common sense. I know one family who had a child that was badly crippled. They didn't believe in going to a doctor, so they allowed this child to go through life crippled.
Name.
It could have been
Corrected.
Corrected by a simple operation. And, I think we need to remember that if we do the possible, God will do the impossible.
Everybody hear that? If we do the possible, what we can do, then God does the impossible. And we've heard things this week where, everything, the situations look bleak, and they turned out for the good. And so that's part of our faith. We have to believe that God's going to do that for us.